Well, good morning, everybody. I'm really glad that you could be here. My name is Bill Fraser. I am the city manager of Montpelier. I'd like to welcome everyone to this virtual press conference. I surely wish we could hold it in person, maybe one of these days. So today I'm really excited that as per section 1007A of the city charter, I'm appointing Brian Peete to the position of police chief. Chief Peete, who is here with us, has had a long career in law enforcement in the military and most recently served as police chief in Alamogordo, New Mexico. His full resume and our formal written announcement were just sent out about 20 minutes ago, being posted online. So all of you folks in the press should have received it. This is a big moment for our department. The last two chiefs, spanning nearly 40 years, were Montpelier locals and came up through the ranks. So we haven't had an outside chief in some time. Chief Peete will begin working alongside Chief Tony Fakis beginning on June 15th and will assume his formal role as Montpelier's 15th police chief beginning on July 1st. Thanks in no small part to Chief Fakis, Montpelier has a great police department who are leaders in Vermont. We look forward to our new chief challenging our officers, dispatchers, and staff to reach even higher levels of professionalism and excellence. Chief Peete was selected from a field of 19 applicants. Our process consisted of resume review, the now routine Google search, 3 interview sessions, extensive reference checks, criminal and financial records checks, and detailed background checks. I was assisted in making this decision by a citizen stakeholder group, the city leadership team, and police department representatives. Chief Peete quickly emerged as the consensus top choice. He impressed us all with his demeanor, knowledge, breadth of experience, leadership skills, and emphasis on mental health awareness and response. An internet search will tell you that Chief Peete left his position in Alamogordo through a difficult resignation process. I personally dug very deeply into the details and came away even more convinced that Brian Peete was the right choice for Montpelier. The political and administrative environment created by Alamogordo's city officials conflicted with his personal and professional ethics. Chief Pete's commitment to Alamogordo and its residents and the overwhelming support he still has from that community, his previous employees, and other partner agencies became clear during the extensive vetting process. I heard over and over again, even from his critics, how effective he had been and how much he'd improved the department. His integrity throughout the ordeal was inspiring. Despite the political climate in Alamogordo, Brian was still able to bring a crisis intervention team program to the department, winning a $400,000 grant to do so. He wrote Alamogordo's first strategic plan for the police department, championed officer mental health, and instituted a robust training program. Chief Peete worked extensively in the community, supported local businesses, and established new partnerships with county, state, and federal agencies. This is the type of forward-looking and active leadership we expect in Montpelier. We're delighted to welcome Brian Peete and his family to Montpelier. We are confident that his experience and dedication to progressive and innovative law enforcement will immensely benefit the police department and the Montpelier community. I'm proud to have him join our team. We'll have brief remarks from Chief Peete, Chief Fakis, and Mary Ann Watson, and then we will take questions from media representatives afterwards. Thank you. Chief Peete.
Thank you, sir. First and foremost, I'd like to thank the various stakeholders, department directives, and the hiring teams and committees for this once-in-a-lifetime fantastic opportunity and for their faith and their trust, and I will not let you down. I'm looking forward to serving the citizens of the city of Montpelier and especially the men and women of the department and the city departments as well. I'm also planning to build upon the very, very strong foundation that Chief Fakis has set for MPD to include the inclusion, accountability, transparency, and especially community-based service in 21st century policing. Nowhere in this great country is there another department that's more dedicated to such 21st century policing practices and cultures. And finally, I'd like to tell the folks who are watching and the families and the people of the city of Montpelier that I look forward to getting out there and to listening and learning and doing everything that I can to continue strengthening the Montpelier Police Department and moving it forward. And of course, I cannot not mention the fact that how grateful I am for the opportunity to lead the men and women of the Montpelier Police Department. I'm looking forward to serving them and to working hard and advocating for them as well. And thank you all again for this extraordinary opportunity.
Thank you, Chief. And Chief Fakis. Unmute yourself, sir.
Thank you, everyone. First, I'd like to take the opportunity to thank members of our community, city department heads, and members of the MPD who participated in the chief selection process. Chief Peete will come to the department faced with two incredibly difficult challenges that be for any police agency. One, the whole global response to COVID-19 and all the changes that brings. And currently, we're at a time of national outrage over police brutality and the need to always foster and improve on police-community relations. The good news is that MPD is fully staffed, both in terms of the dispatch and the police. But again, our parking folks, that's still on hold as we work through the COVID-19 financial challenges. But crime is low, quality of life is very strong in Montpelier. And one of the things I just love when the few times that Chief Peete and I have spoken on the phone is that it's like we've been working together for quite some time, just in terms of how his approach to drug harm reduction and community health, especially two key pieces that are very near and dear to both of our philosophies in policing. One is our commitment to 21st century policing and the 6 pillars that are involved with that. And number two, our commitment to improving law enforcement response to people in mental health crisis. And that's something that we are both well accomplished in. And so he's got some great ideas, and we so look forward to what he's going to bring to Montpelier PD and take it up a notch. And his no question about his dedication and commitment to Montpelier is going to be outstanding. And lastly, just so people understand, because he's an out-of-state police officer, he'll be going through a waiver process, as when any law enforcement officer is transitioning from one state to another, and that will be so he'll have it'll be a little so for probably hopefully within 2 months he'll be a fully certified Vermont law enforcement officer. It's a standard process that he'll have to go through with some additional training to bring him up to speed with Vermont rules of criminal procedure, Vermont law, Vermont criminal motor vehicle law, and so forth. So the department will assist working with the Vermont Police Academy to have that happen as soon as possible. And again, lastly, I just want to, for my 35 years here, thank this community so much, and then also thank the department. So it's a wonderful place to live. It's a wonderful place to work, and so thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Mayor Watson.
Thank you, and hello, everyone. I want to start by thanking all of the folks who were involved in the hiring process. So thank you to the members of the public and of the department and staff that were a part of this hiring process. It seems like we've come up with a great candidate, or not just candidate, great hire. So thank you so much. To Tony, I just want to say I've been so grateful to work with you over the past few years. I've really appreciated your compassionate approach to policing, and I definitely see that in our incoming Chief Peete as well, which is very exciting. And to our incoming Chief Peete, I just want to say that I'm looking forward to working with you, and we have a great department here and a great community, and we all highly value the work of our police department and the work of the leadership there. So thank you, and we're looking forward to having you. And as I understand it, you're not quite in Montpelier yet, but I want to welcome you to Montpelier. So thank you.
I believe he's sitting in Montpelier right now, actually.
Oh, are you? Oh, okay. Never mind then.
So yes, okay. Well, thank you, everybody. This time, if there are questions from media representatives, any of the 4 of us that spoke, we'll be happy to take them.
It would be excellent if you could raise your hand so that I can unmute you. If you would like to raise a question, you can do that by hitting your reactions at the bottom, or you can hit more next to your name. That also does not seem to be working. So what I will do, unless no one has a question, but what I will do is unmute everyone. And if you speak up, I will notice and we'll sort of create a queue for questions. Okay. I'm not hearing from anybody. So I'm going to go through and sort of.
It looks
Cameron,
like we
it
have a
says we're all
question from,
muted. It says we're all muted, not unmuted.
Okay, well, okay.
Cameron, this is Meredith. There is a question in the group chat.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Meredith.
You're welcome.
From Eloise Reed, how will Montpelier take a stand against police brutality within the police department? Chief Peete, I believe that is directed to you.
Hey, that's a very relevant question, especially with everything that's going on right now in our country, the unfortunate incidences. Montpelier already has a very strongly established culture of servant-based leadership, I believe, and service to its community. And what we have to do is make sure that we continue that culture so that it becomes the norm and not the exception, that our department is one that believes in serving the community and being part of the community that it serves, that we do not isolate ourselves and look upon ourselves as an us versus them warrior geared mentality. We have to be diligent in who we are. We have to police ourselves. We have to train, and we have to make sure that we set the example for not only ourselves, but to become the best doggone police department in this state and a national leader in 21st century policing practices and cultures, and making sure in servant-based response. So I think that there's a lot going on, and we can't do it alone. We need feedback and honest discussions with those that we serve in the community. And I think that once we all love each other and understand each other, things will just continue to get better. But I think we have a very strong department, and just moving forward and being that example.
So Tom Brown had a question.
Hi, excuse me. Hi, everyone. Welcome to Montpelier, Chief Peete. Just curious what drew you to Montpelier, Vermont in particular, and also if at some point, and I know you're limited on this, but if you could speak on some of the philosophical or other issues you had with management in Alamogordo, that would be interesting to hear. So welcome. What drew you here and what you've been doing since you left the job?
Okay. Well, first and foremost, what drew me here was knowing the reputation of the department and knowing the integrity of the city government and of the professional staff and directors that are here, and that they're geared towards service to the community and serving the constituents. That is huge for me more than anything else, especially dealing with some past instances. Chief Peete has been a very strong voice and advocate within law enforcement executive circles regarding CIT, regarding external stakeholder buy-in, and regarding working with all different various agencies. I mean, you can look at Project SafeCat just as one example. It's a national example and model with what they're doing. So to be able to come into a department that's strongly established and that understands, that gets it, and to do what I can to solicit the ideas of the men and women of the department, that's extraordinarily exciting. It's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. And on a more personal level, in coming here, is my wife Natalie and I, we have a 6-year-old daughter, Gabriella, and we were looking for a community. We were looking for, I think the best way to say it is a home. And Montpelier just checked it off on so many different levels. And and it was further validated when we came in here, and from walking our dog to, we're staying self-quarantined, but as I have to walk the dog, and when we're out trying to get groceries and maintaining that the social distancing, it feels like home. It's the equivalent to me as when you're house hunting and you walk in, you take that first step to the front door and you know this is it. And so just everything combined, all those elements combined, just make it a dream, an absolute dream. And in regards to my previous position in Alamogordo, there are some extraordinarily fine people there, some hardworking people that are working towards the constituency, that are working towards the staff, and that want to make the community better. And it's a great, wonderful place to live. Unfortunately, there have been some administrative things that have come up, and some of them steeped in political related issues that did not coalesce to who I was and to how I was brought up personally and professionally. I've come from a background of the Inspector General's office. I come from a background of federal law enforcement, and I come from a background of military leadership where we have to value integrity, honor, and service. And based on that, there were some issues there that did not quite coalesce to that. And there came a decision in which I had to make, and I chose to pursue other opportunities, and again, the blessing of coming here had presented itself. So I'm grateful for that.
All right. If you have a question, either unmute yourself or you can type that you have a question in the chat, and I can either read it out loud or call on you. I'm sort of trusting everyone here to not talk over each other, but feel free to unmute yourself if you have a question.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
Kim Cheney, Chief Peete, I've been interested in regional police and fire cooperation in central Vermont. I wonder if you've had any experience in regional cooperation, communications, use of equipment, training together, those kinds of things.
Yes, sir. Good morning. I do have some experience and exposure in working with within the city of Chicago. I became a licensed EMTB, and I did my practicum, if you will, my hours. My CE hours with the Chicago Fire Department, responding to various different calls for the ambulance personnel. So I'm extraordinarily familiar with that aspect of working with the fire department. I've also worked with the fire department on scene in Chicago, worked with them in Alamogordo, as well as working with the chief of the Alamogordo Fire Department, and trying to make sure we have joint training opportunities, as well as when it comes to unfortunately, active shooter scenarios, and then how the police department can support the fire department in a way that will make their jobs easier when they're responding to emergencies. I do have that experience, but I think above more than all, I have to make sure that my job is to listen. My job is to serve, and my job is to find out what it is that the fire department here in Montpelier needs from the police department, that we can make all of our jobs easier to serve the citizens of the city.
All right. Again.
Em, are you trying to have a follow-up? You're muted.
I don't think so. Okay, we'll see. Tom, I guess I'm being told that you're also trying to speak again, so hold on, let me see if I can unmute you. You should be able to unmute yourselves. I did not turn it off for anybody, so go for it, Tom.
You got to unmute yourself, Tom.
I was muted by the host. No, I was just curious about the citizen group. Can we know the membership of that? Who was involved in this hiring other than departmental staff?
Sure. I'll go through the whole thing just so people are aware. The Montpelier Police Department had Corporal Chris Truhan was involved, Dispatcher Carrie McCool, Public Safety Administrator Chris Hepburn, Sergeant Eric Nordenson, and Dispatch Supervisor Fred Cummings were involved. The city leadership team, I won't read them all off, but the department heads and key staff people, including Chief Fakis and Captain Neil Martell, and then the citizen advisory group, which were people I asked to assist me. This wasn't a council-appointed committee. Included the chair of the Community Justice Center Board, June Bascom, Montpelier Alive Director Dan Groberg, Social and Economic Justice Committee member Julia Chaffetz, Times Argus editor Steve Pappas, Washington County Mental Health Services Director Mary Moulton, and the Washington County State's Attorney Rory Tebow. So that was my advisory group.
All right, we did have another question from Eloise Reed. She wanted to ask Chief Peete, would you support anti-racist training for the department?
Yes, by all means. But I'd have to look at the at what that curriculum would entail. There are many aspects to this, and I think that based on the man I know, Tony Fakis to be, based on the man that I know, Captain Neil to be, and in the history of the department, I don't see any evidence there. But I think that it's important that we have to emphasize training that continues to challenge us, each of us, to confront any biases that we may have against anyone, whether it be skin tone, whether it be sexual orientation, whether it be anything. Name the gambit of anything that we sometimes, unfortunately, choose to distinguish ourselves from someone else. So I think that we need to be aware of any biases or implicit biases that we may develop throughout our lifetimes of experiences, and to keep those in check, and to constant struggle, not just for law enforcement, I think, but for all of us in general. And that's why I think the national conversation that's going on right now is a very good one, and it's one that causes each of us to look inside of ourselves and to become better, to start with ourselves. And so I think that yes, and looking at that training and make sure that we maintain officer wellness, to make sure that sometimes some of the things that typically crop up within law enforcement, with those who work within law enforcement and emergency response, that we push those demons down, we push those depressions down, and we move forward. So I think that the vigilance there is something I definitely support. I want to make sure that that we continue to do this, and that we become the national model for this for all other policing agencies.
There are a lot of folks on this call for people to not have questions, so you are able to unmute yourself, or you can type your question into the chat if you do not want to unmute yourself.
This is Kim Cheney. I have a follow-up. Am I on?
You are.
Yes, sir.
Oh, okay. Chief Peete, I'm currently the chair of a regional public safety authority that's trying to work with Barry City and some of our surrounding towns. And my question about cooperation was not just between departments, but between municipalities. And I wonder if you have any experience in that area.
Yes, sir. I do have a lot of experience there. And starting off in my career in OSI, I had to liaison with other federal agencies, with that entire alphabet soup. federal agencies, state and municipal agencies, and that's something that's carried over all the way to Alamogordo, and something that I will continue to do here. Again, and following that legacy and that example set by Chief Vegas, that MPD enjoys a very strong and robust relationship with all law enforcement agencies. So I want to make sure I continue that I build upon that, because law enforcement is not a vacuum. It cannot be a vacuum. We cannot do any of this alone, and it takes all of us to work forward. It takes all of us to ensure the safety of community. So it can't be about ego. Never should be about ego, and that's not who I'm about. It's just, it all boils down to making sure we do what's best and we communicate with each other to serve, because that's what this job is about. Law enforcement is about service. It's not about anything else. It's not about power trips. It's not about us versus them. It's about serving people. And anyone who's in this job for any other reason, obviously with what's going on, time's over with for that. And we need to move forward, and we need to make sure that we all coalesce with each other and we work well together.
Chief Peete, this is Carol Plant. I am the Restorative Programs Coordinator for the Community Justice Center. And I'm interested just to hear you talk about your experience with restorative justice, or your perspective about using restorative justice.
Okay, I've worked on recidivism boards in the state of New Mexico, and working with community policing programs within Chicago. And then moving towards Alamogordo, we look towards restorative justice models. There's a lot there. Restorative justice takes a lot. It takes a lot of strength. It takes a lot of patience, and it takes a lot of working with a lot of external agencies to make sure that we succeed and we accomplish. So I don't believe that any agency can arrest itself out of any particular situations. It has to be about a multi-pronged effort, and going all the way from people, from SROs, from officers, from families, from school teachers, from everyone, from the lowest, from the youngest levels all the way up to adult levels, and identifying people that need help, and moving forward and getting them that help before they become immersed into a criminal justice system that needs a little bit of work. So I think the best medicine here is to make sure we don't pull people in, and those who are in, is to do what we can to make sure that we move towards recidivism, that we move towards enhancing quality of life and opportunities, educational opportunities, economic opportunities for people who have been disadvantaged historically. So I think it's in looking at restorative justice, I think that it has to continue on as a national dialogue, and it has to be input from everybody. And I think nowadays, police departments are being forced to come to the table and to listen, where in the past that's been lacking in some areas. I do not see that anywhere here in the city. But to begin those national dialogues and those local dialogues and sharing of information, and I think, to me, the biggest key of restorative justice is compassion, is to understand, again, that sense of service, that what we're here for. There go I with the grace of God. So we have to realize that at any given one moment, any of us can be struck down from where we're at to whether it's health, whether it's job. I've been there several times myself. So it's understanding, and it's establishing that connection to your fellow human being, and doing everything that you can to give back to help them succeed. I hope that answered your question.
Yes, thank you.
If I may,
Actually,
sorry,
if I jump in here for a second, Mayor Watson needs to get off. I think she just wanted to say a couple things. Sorry to interrupt.
Yep, sorry, I just wanted to say again, welcome to Chief Peete. We're so excited to have you. You're clearly the right man for the job, and we're so grateful for you. Thank you all again. And I've got a class here starting in about 1 minute, so I'll see you all again soon, I hope. Yeah.
So I just wanted to respond. Yes, thank you for answering that question. And I love to hear you talk about service, because coming from a restorative process place, that's really what we think about, is how we serve the people that we work with. And I also appreciate hearing your thoughts about that it's multifaceted and that it's not, you know, a panacea. We're not going to fix it just by doing a restorative process, but we have to look at all of the different contributing factors around what's happening with people. So thank you. I appreciate that.
No, thank you. And if I may also follow up in transitioning from the previous question regarding that, why I chose to come here or why I wanted to come here. You guys are doing something that is seldomly seen in this country. You have a police department that engages and listens to the community under the leadership of Chief Peete, and you have a community that wants to rally to do better. It gives me goosebumps to be able to be part of that opportunity. And again, that's one of the many things that is so attractive about coming here to this city. And I'm so grateful and so blessed to have been here and to have been nominated or given this opportunity.
This leads into my question. May I ask? May I talk? Hi, Chief. Welcome. We want to know how we can welcome you and how we can support the work, particularly with officer support with mental health services for officers when needed, and support so that terrible accidents can be prevented. The outgoing chief's article was very moving and made me really think hard about officer mental health, which is not something, a warrior doesn't complain. A warrior is a warrior. A warrior does not let you know when a warrior is feeling weak, but a warrior needs support and rest and respite from time to time. What will you do to maintain your strength and equilibrium in the kinds of difficult days that we have now? And I wondered if you'll have open visiting hours or some kind of community hour where we can speak with you in the way that the City Hall Council does sometimes hold community hour where we can meet a counselor and talk with them.
Yes, I can definitely answer to that. And I think that Chief Peete is also probably several things. He's probably chomping at the bit to say something about that, because again, he is a leader in officer wellness. He was talking about and doing these types of things before it became a national discussion within circles like PERF or the IACP. So yes, warriors, yes. I prefer the term guardians because that's what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to be here to guard and to help and to serve and protect people. And yes, for too long, it has been a suck it up, rub some dirt on it, and move on. And that breeds more problems. And I think that in my philosophy is that we can't deal with, you can't not address and deal with accumulative trauma or vicarious trauma. Everyone in first response, everyone who serves the public is taking on a lot of stress from everyone else. And I think the type of people that come into public service are the ones who want to help and who will drown themselves to give back to people. And then if it becomes too much, then the cynicism comes in and creeps in. And then that's when we start having issues. And we start making mistakes, or we start making conscious decisions to do things that we shouldn't be doing. And so it's incumbent upon each of us to make sure we recognize that, to make sure we have the training to recognize that in our fellow public service folks, and to help them before it becomes something that's going to elevate to what we're seeing now, to what's going on in Minneapolis. And it's crucial, not just for the perspective of making sure that we keep our city safe and that we keep our city in a good name and that we become a national model, but I think even more in depth is because we want to save the lives of not the people that we serve, but the people who serve. So we want to make sure that families stay together, that they have, they're not coming home angry, that's crucial. And coming from what I've been through, and with my wife's strength, that's who I draw my strength from, and being able to recognize that in each other and to help each other before we steep a little bit further in that abyss. And I think Chief Peete probably may have some other things to say.
I'd like to jump in on this too, if I could, Amma. One of the things that we found when doing our background check on Chief Peete was over and over again people talking about how connected to the community he was, and how out and about and involved with very many groups, and just being at events and being available and volunteering. It was it was a very consistent theme. It was something he talked about in his interviews, and I think is one of the many things that attracted us to want to hire him is that that important value.
And,
So I
and
think
I'm sorry.
find him around.
Yes, sir. And I'm sorry about that. I was getting my little head wrapped up into officer wellness and that. But in answering that second part of the question, I will be out there everywhere. You see me in the grocery store, you see me walking down Main Street or State Street, please stop me and tell me what it is that you want to see from me, what it is that I can do to make the community that I'm going to serve better. And yes, I will be and looking at what the restrictions are from COVID-19 are going to be, but I plan to being proactive and getting out there and talking to individuals, making myself available. I'll be here, and if only one person shows up, then one person shows up and we have a very good conversation. But whether it's faith-based organizations or social service organizations, any place, anybody that wants to talk to me, I will be there on your time.
Thank you, Chief. You know we would have a potluck for you or a big barbecue if it wasn't like this right now.
We can't even say goodbye to Chief Fakis properly.
Need to
You
have a
will.
party.
It'll just be delayed.
That's right. Keep him around longer.
All right. No one else has typed in a question in the chat for a minute. Feel free to unmute yourself if you do have a question.
But if not, there'll be plenty of opportunity. As we've mentioned, Chief Peete will begin working along with Chief Fakis on the 15th of June. That is to allow him his 2 weeks of quarantine after moving to town. Otherwise, I think he'd be there working today. We will have, I'm sure he will make himself available for plenty of conversations. And I'd like to thank everyone for coming, asking questions, participating. And again, we're just delighted to have Chief Peete coming aboard. I think we've really have a great find. And, there will be another time for this, but I really can't thank Tony enough. He's been just a great partner to work with and great chief. And we've managed to actually get along personally too. So there's that. So I'm going to, oh, Diane? Oh, no, she just hopped in and hopped off. Okay. So
this is Diane Derby. I just want to welcome Chief Peete. I am a Montpelier resident, long time, and I am also Senator Leahy's point person with the law enforcement community in Vermont. And on behalf of the Senator, I'm sure he'll be in touch when he hears this news, but welcome to Vermont, to Montpelier. And I've had a real privilege of working with Chief Fakis for many years. It's been a great relationship, and we will miss Tony greatly, but we're really thrilled to have you. So thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you very much for the opportunity and the trust.
Thank you.
Well, I guess it's time to call this one. Thanks again for everyone. And I believe Chief Peete indicated he might pop in on us at the council meeting tonight too. So for those council, I would, for Chief Pete's sake, we do have Councilmember Jack McCullough is here. Just wave your hand, Jack. Dan Richardson is here. Jay Erickson just popped his face up. Lauren Hurl. Mayor Watson was on the call. Is Connor on?
No.
So most of the city council's here. So they're interested. And they're a great bunch. They work very cooperatively with our staff. We're fortunate to have them. Okay, thanks all. On to great things for the community.
Thank you.